Greenwood, South Carolina, this is Meet Me at the Diner with your host, Ann Eller.
That's right. Let's check and make sure I got everything done here today because we got an important interview. I don't want to screw it up. Okay, I'm saying it right now. We are on the radio. We are on Facebook Live. I have 2 live guests sitting across from me here this afternoon, so we're going to have a great time. I have with me Nanci Dixon. She is the Director of Nursing for Emergency Care at Self Regional Healthcare and at the Edgefield County Hospital. And let me tell you, she has a most interesting story. She started out as a secretary just a few years ago, and look at her now. So we're going to talk to Nanci in just a second, but I also want to introduce Dr. Greg Givens. He is the emergency medicine physician. He is head of the department over there, Self Regional Medical Center, chief of staff since December of 2024. He was someone who was on track to become a family medicine doctor, during his becoming a doctor, went in and worked in an emergency room one night and got hooked. And so he's been an adrenaline junkie. That's what he found out, because working in the emergency room has to have a lot of that there. So welcome both of y'all to the show.
Thank you.
It is good to see you. Nanci, tell us a little bit, how did you get from a secretary to your role today? You also became a nurse. You worked on EMS. I mean, you have had quite a career.
I did. I started in the early 90s. I started Lander in 1990. And as a job while I was in college, I went to the emergency department here at Self Regional. And I worked as a secretary. They called them secretary tech. So I did a lot of the office work at the desk, putting in orders. And then I saw the technicians that were actually spending time with the patients. So I thought, let me do that. And so then I cross-trained and did that. And I was in nursing school. And so that natural progression to go to nursing school, and I knew I wanted to do the ER. So I went and got my EMT.
So you're a junkie too.
I'm a junkie too. I am. Went and got my EMT, did some time on the ambulance, and just thought this is the absolute best career. And it has been.
Wow. Now, your mother worked in the emergency room, yes?
So she worked in the lab.
In the lab.
She did. Mabel. She worked in the lab at the hospital for over 40 years and retired from Self Memorial. She started at Self Memorial Hospital and retired from Self Regional.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So that's a kind of a family tradition. Do you have any children that are into medicine?
I have children, and none of the 5 boys are into the medical field. I do have a daughter-in-law, my stepdaughter-in-law, Maddie. She works in labor and delivery.
Wow.
So that was as close as we got.
As close as you got. Well, I know that you are excited to talk about the emergency department, what you do at the emergency, when you go to the emergency room, what happens, why do some people get to go in first? We're going to cover all those type of things, as well as this new beautiful building that you have. But first, let me talk to Dr. Greg Givens. Greg, how did you decide to go into medicine?
It really wasn't a choice for me that I had to make. I was fortunate that I knew early on. It was 6 years old or so. I just knew that.
So you were one of those playing doctor at an early age, huh? Let me
maybe.
check you over.
Maybe. No, so I did. I knew it at an early age, and from there it was just getting to that point and getting into medical school. Did you have any family that was in medical field? No, ma'am. I did not. And so to touch on the story that you led off with there, that's absolutely right. I did a lot of shadowing with a physician who was a family medicine physician, did have an emergency medicine background, but when I spent time with him, he was working in Inman, South Carolina at a family practice office. And then during my first semester of my first year of medical school. They offered an opportunity to go into, you could go anywhere. You could go to general surgery or anesthesia, and they happened to offer one for the emergency department. I said, well, let me just go see what this is about. And I went in and was instantly at home and just knew that was for me. And I was very fortunate. And I definitely looked around all through medical school and third and fourth year doing rotations. Third year's when you're primarily doing all of them. And then your fourth year, you've kind of settled in. You know what you want to do. I took a good hard look at all of them. And if I had not known that I wanted to do emergency medicine, then I would have been an OBGYN. So kind of a change from family practice to ER to, even OBGYN. But no, I definitely ended up exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Why? What makes emergency medicine so special for you?
Obviously the adrenaline. I like the not knowing what is going to happen next, walking in and not knowing what's going to be behind the curtain, and getting to figure that out, and getting to make those decisions, and being able through those decisions to make direct impact on the patient's life and in the here and the now. And many times we're able to do that and make a change. Yesterday we were talking about a patient in heart failure, and to be able to have them, if you don't do anything, they're going to slip further and further into that and get to a point of arrest. And we're able to give them treatment and medications and do the things that we need to do to pull them out of that. And anytime we're able to make those impacts, and they don't have to necessarily be that drastic.
Sure.
It's a good feeling, and that's why we all do this. We do this to touch people and to make a difference, and that's what does it for me.
Absolutely.
And I love the procedural aspect. That's a big thing in emergency medicine. I love to do things, and
well, you get a lot of opportunity, and you never know what's coming down the pike, right?
You never know, and that's part of that adrenaline.
It's that variety.
Absolutely.
And I think you don't have to pick one specialty. You literally can do almost anything within those walls within your career. You
don't have to come in and say, okay, who's up first today, and know that you're going to be dealing with this, or this type of situation.
Right. It's a question mark as to what's going to come in. And the only way you're going to know is that patient coming through the lobby and sign in at registration, or they call in from the EMS radio, and then you start planning and getting ready.
So none of the TV shows, I just have to throw this in, none of the TV shows influenced you at all in your choices, both of you. How about you, Nanci? Did you
I watched ER.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was my generation. I watched ER, and I loved it. The more you get into medicine and the more you learn, the more you realize that's just not the real world. Mm. But, there's fun times. There's exciting traumas. There's those things. And, there's still the drama, that you see on those dramatic TV shows. Mm-hmm. But it's just a place that you can get some immediate gratification with your job that I think is very important. Or it's very rewarding, rather. And
is it a job where it is easy to get people to work that? I know we have like a nursing shortage, but is that easier to get people? Do you find people want that type of job, or? So
you do. It's not hard to get them. It's hard to keep them.
Keep them.
And so at times, it ebbs and flows. You've got the new grads coming out of nursing school. They all want to do ICU, the ER, or labor and delivery. Those are just those types of jobs. But it's the keeping with the pace, with you talk about burnout, but just with the pace that they keep every day and the things you see. You can't unsee some things,
right.
And they're the patients or the situations that you always remember.
Right.
I can remember plenty of them, and some of them were not so lucky to turn around that heart failure patient. And you have the bad situations that you just don't understand what people go through. And one of the most important things, and I tell people when we hire them or when we're interviewing, one of the most important things is that you just can't be a judgmental type person, because it doesn't matter why they're in front of us. They're in front of us for a reason, and they all have a story. And the mom that brings the child in that didn't give them Tylenol and they have a fever. You don't know why she didn't give Tylenol. Did she not have it? Did she believe in letting the fever run its course? She's got nice nails and says she didn't have, the Tylenol, but you don't know that person's story.
That's
and they're
true.
scared, and they came because they needed us. And we need to be there for those people.
That is so true. That's a very good point. Greg, anything to add to that? How about as far as emergency physicians? Is it hard to find emergency physicians?
So we've actually, and this was something that I would like to mention at some point, is just to Nancy what she was saying about, even though there is turnover and even though we do deal with very, very difficult times and situations, and there's things that we take home with us and there's things that are permanently embedded, like she said, we'll never forget certain situations. But even though it's a tough place to work, she's done a phenomenal job at the nurses that we and the tech staff and the people that we have that are working to see these patients. The culture that is built. I mean, it's wonderful people, and they do such a phenomenal job, and touching people's lives every day. And I feel like we've done the same. I'm proud of the group that we have there. That's the culture we have there in that emergency department. The reason that we do it, everybody's bought into that. And for us, fortunately, we've been able to recruit well. Just like Nanci has. We've got a group of excellent nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and physicians. And we've been able to just build on that over the years. And that's one of the things that we hire to is do the things that we do and the things that we stand for here at Self Regional. Do these things resonate with you? And they have to. We have a training program. It's the program where I trained. It's where the majority, honestly, of our physicians trained. It's where Dr. Logan trained down at Richland, and we've been able to maintain a really good relationship with them over the years. We have them come up and moonlight with us, and we've been able to get some really, really phenomenal hires out of that program over the years. So that is one of our pipelines, and then just knowing people in the community and having that network that we can pull from to bring new people in and find the right ones for us.
Absolutely. I think that's terrific because you're right, Nanci. I mean, when you are going to the emergency room, you're not at your best. That is the bottom line, and you have to be able to meet people and get through to them. That's absolutely.
Yeah.
And to have a staff that is caring and compassionate and willing to do whatever it takes to get you through it.
And I agree, Ann, and it's one of the things that you have to think that this team, I mean, we're made up of sitters, because we have sitters that have to keep our patients safe when they're there, maybe wanting to harm themselves. We have techs that are such a value to our team. Their skill level that they do, they draw blood, they put on splints, they have some skills that the nurses don't learn, so that they can support the nurses and the physicians and our mid-levels and APPs. And so you have those, and then you have your nurses, obviously, and the nurse can walk from this patient that is here for a sprain, a fracture, or something that's not going to be life-changing,
right,
into this patient that is, a trauma or a cardiac arrest or whatever, that, you're fighting for sometimes hours to save them, and then back to discharge this patient, and so to meet people where they are in the moment and to be able to flip like that is something that is an art, and it's something that, you
can't just say, I'm having a bad day over here with this patient.
And to be honest, everybody just can't do it.
Right.
And to your point about the nursing shortage, we also have a pipeline from both of our local, our Piedmont Tech and our local nursing schools, as well as Lander, and we have great relationships with them. So the recruiting is there. And to your point about the nursing shortage, there's so many opportunities for nurses now. And nurses have spread to so many avenues and opportunities. You just have to compete.
Right. Well, I think that's great. But now, one of the things we're going to talk about today is the fabulous new facility that I got to tour yesterday, and y'all were so gracious to give me a great tour and point out some of the smaller details. I want to talk about that, but first, I want to talk about when one walks in or when one is brought in an ambulance into the emergency room. I think sometimes people get a little PO'd because somebody gets treated before and they've been here an hour or more.
Right.
Who wants to speak to that?
So I'll start. So, one of the trainings and one of the just skills that the nurses have to have is their assessment skills. And you start that assessment when that patient's coming in that door. And it's called across the room assessment. And we all learn it. And you have to see, is that an emergency where I need to go get that patient right now? And some patients come in our front doors like that, whether they come in a car or they're walking, their last couple of steps. And you have to know, is that an emergency? And then you engage the patient just as soon as you can. And our new build, to your point, is putting that nurse and or that tech that we talked about being so valuable, and they have those skills as well, to the patient earlier than in our previous processes that we had in our other build. And so to be able to do that and to get only the pertinent information at the moment from the patient, so very quick, rapid assessment of that patient, and we assign them an acuity level, and that is from 1 to 5, 5 being the least sick and 1 being emergent. We have to resuscitate this patient right now, whether they need IV fluids or they need a breathing tube or whatever they need. And so then we assign those, and then they are in our electronic system in that order. So, if we have those level 5 patients and those lower acuity patients that may just need an x-ray, it's important. We know they're hurting. Get them some pain, start some protocols, and we can go ahead, and the nurses can go ahead and order things prior to the physician seeing the patient. And so that's the order patients are seeing, not first come, first serve. Now, we run those systems parallel. So we have some designated areas that we would take care of those sicker patients, the level 1s, 2s, and some of the 3s. And then we have our fast track area, which Dr. Gibbons will probably talk about a little bit more, that we would see some of the lower level acuity patients so that we can run them parallel. Now, when it comes down to it and we have days where our acuity is higher, then we have to start shutting down some of those lower, less sick, less injured patients to take care of the patients that need to be in the emergency department and seen first.
So, Dr. Gibbons, do you actually assign a emergency doctor to work with the lower ones during that day, or how does this actually work?
Yes, ma'am. That's in our schedule. We call that area fast track. And to speak about the new build, just to mention this, I know that a lot of the listeners have probably been in the lobby of the emergency department and remember the boxes that were out there, the 6 boxes. And that process worked so well for us that we actually built that into the new build. We call that fast track. And fast track runs from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. So we have 2 providers. It will either be a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, or a physician that will work over there. And there's 2 shifts, 10-hour shifts each. There's 9 to 7, and then there's 12 to 10. And during those times, they are wide open and seeing those lower acuity patients, or as Nanci said, if the volume dictates that and we have a higher volume of higher acuity patients, then we would need to address them first. But we do make a very sincere and wholehearted effort to see those patients as quickly as we can so that they don't have to wait too long. And this is a process that has evolved over many years, even back to when Dr. Logan was the director of the emergency department. A plan was set up and a trial to see how will this work. Right. And it actually worked really well. And it improved the patient satisfaction, it improved throughput, decreased length of stay, all the things that you want to have happen. And just over the years, it got busier and busier in those areas, and we've just had to adapt and change and find new ways to be creative to take care of those patients.
Well, in this world, if you do not evolve, you die. I mean, so you have to evolve to make this. Now, I think I was reading that the last emergency room you had was set up for what, like 32,000 patients a year. This new build can handle, oh my God, 80,000 people if necessary over a year. That's huge.
Yeah, that's really busy. We
That's really busy.
it's really busy.
That's a scary number. We're currently on about 50 to 55,000 a year.
Yeah. So our average daily is about 157 patients a day right now. And yes, the new emergency department with processes, good processes, obviously.
Sure. Right.
You can't just build a big space and not have good processes. So we are looking at some new processes and some different things. Like we're always trying to evolve and trying to improve the quality of care, the timing of our care, and our safety, of our team as well as the patients. And so we have a 15-bed area that we're using or can use now in the main emergency department. So that would give us our total 55 beds. In future, we're looking at potentially putting an observation area there so that we can maximize the use of our main emergency department beds and get patients that may need to stay 4 extra hours for a repeat blood test and put them in that area so that we can keep our main emergency department flowing.
I think that, well, I'm going to ask this question. The days of old where people would say, I spent the whole night in the emergency room. Is that likely to happen today?
There are patients who will have prolonged stays, and it's just dependent upon what the issue is, how long.
But they would be seen before they would spend a long. I mean, people used to spend many hours, I think, sitting out there. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about total workup
right.
time. Sometimes they can still be rather extensive and prolonged, and
but they're being seen by somebody.
Yes.
Yes.
We've had these conversations. I don't know
Our wait times are not
how many times where we've had so many patients come in, and maybe the hospital just in general is busy and full during flu season, and so it backs up in the emergency department, and then it backs up into the lobby, and we've had a physician, I mean, Nanci and I have done this together. We've gone out with a computer and we've set up a little area to see patients just to try to keep things moving and cut down on those wait times.
And I think one of the important things to know is that when there is a wait, we start care. So those patients that come in that front door or that back door, when the nurses see those patients and they get that acuity there and they look at their chief complaint plus their assessment, we have approved protocols that the nurses can start, and they can go ahead and start the blood work. They can get the x-rays. And so then when a physician does get to that patient, or we get a room open to put that patient in so the physician does have access to the patient, then we have results back. If there's anything critical in that, we would have gotten a phone call about it. So it improves patient safety. We can get that care started. So that's an important part as well. But our average length of stay is still running 4 hours or less for the majority of the patients.
That's terrific. That's terrific. So, but part of the reason you built this new place was you needed a newer facility, right?
Yeah.
We did.
A redo of it. It was a redo, right?
Right. It was a renovation in the existing space, and there were a lot of changes. I mean, it certainly needed an upgrade in terms of aesthetics. And so it's a beautiful space. It's an area that we're all proud to work in. I think the patients are happy there. They like the surroundings. But there are a lot of things that were built into this by design and purposefully with intention to be able to provide safety in certain aspects, to provide speed in certain aspects, and just.
And I understand that you actually had input from staff on building this. It was, a $32 million facility?
Yes, ma'am.
and what the foundation.
8.3 million
The Self
of
Foundation,
our yes, with the community and that philanthropy that was able to put into this, which is huge.
And I don't think enough can be said about that. I just wanted to say that everyone that donated to this project, all of the campaign donors and people in the community, thank you for giving to this. This is a very, very worthwhile project, and will continue to serve this community for many, many years in the future. So we're so thankful for the support that we had, and so happy with the way that it turned out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's beautiful. But number one, when you peel back and get underneath and see some of the things like how you can open a bathroom door if somebody had fallen against the door and you couldn't get in, but there is a way to get in, it's absolutely fabulous.
Yes,
I mean,
so that is definitely one of my favorite things to show people is that, you have the safety to be able to double swing that door, out in case someone did fall. But in the safety part, we also looked at function. So we're able to flex some areas. And one of those is our fast track area that we talked about for lower acuity. We equip those rooms with cardiac monitors to make it safer if we give pain medicine there, but also to be able in the higher acuity days to flex. And we'll flex the other way. We'll put lower acuity patients in our main emergency department too.
For sure.
You just have to be so flexible. And if I said anything about our team is like, they are just go with the flow, flexible, jump in, do anything. And we couldn't be the emergency department we are today without that team and their flexibility.
Well, I think that comes from leadership, though, doesn't it? Yes,
yeah, we have great leadership. So I was definitely mentored, and I'll put a plug in for her, Cindy Kinney, who is our current chief nursing officer now. Cindy is from emergency care. She was an emergency nurse for many years. She did some trauma coordinating stuff in the emergency department, manager. She was a director over me, and I was a manager for 11 years. And then she was promoted to assistant vice president, and then most recently to chief nursing officer. And so, she's been a huge mentor to me. She's taught me so much, and I hope to be able to do the same for those that are. And we have a great leadership team in the emergency department. We have charge nurses. We have clinical care leads, managers. And most recently, we just put in a position for a staff development nurse, which is similar to an educator position because there's so many team members, and we just want to make sure that we keep up to date with the best practices.
Absolutely. And Greg, we've got Dr. Greg Givens here. I guess the CEO who started in the emergency room would be a big plus too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I think he said that he's never really leaving, right?
Well, let me tell you, the effect of Dr. Logan will always be felt on that emergency department, as well as all of those that came before. Those guys are legends. Dr. Cook's in the emergency department right now. I got to work with him for a little while today, and same way. And those guys, in the same way that Nanci was raised. Now, I will say that Nanci was a charge nurse when I came out. She definitely helped to grow me up as a young doctor. Same thing with Cindy Kinney, but definitely Matt Logan and those guys, Bruce Cook, Randy Kane, Joe Logan. They showed me what it was like to be a doctor and help me to become that. And I think they did the same for all of us that they were able to work with. We all learned something from them. And fortunately, we've been able to, talking about our team, we've got a great team, and we learn from each other. And we're a good group, and we solve problems together. It's never a independent, every man for himself. No, we're a team.
It's just surgeons that are like that, right?
I'm not going to comment on that.
You're not going to get either one of us to say that.
That's what I hear. I have no knowledge.
That's a myth, right? Over the years. That's a myth.
It's very much a team approach, and even talking about those critical patients that we see, we're not alone. If I go in there and I see that patient and my partners who are working that day hear that, hey, there's a bad trauma back there, they're going to come back and they're going to help. They're going to be an assistant to me, a peripheral brain in the room helping.
How about the pharmacy? How about the pharmacy? Let's
absolutely.
talk about that.
We will definitely discuss them. They're an invaluable asset. But just in the way that we work together solving daily issues.
Sure.
We did that during this 28 months that we had the renovation going on, and I don't think that enough could be said about our team. And I just want to brag on them.
Absolutely.
So proud of them. Every day you walked in there, it was like it was something different, and you never knew. I mean, I would be gone for 4 or 5 days. I'd come on, there's a new barrier up, there's plastic over here. I can't get in this room. I got to. There was a lot of change, and
that had to be
team,
a lot of stress. That had to be a lot of stress dealing with that too, on top of what you dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, you had the noise level, you had the detours around. The team, had to figure out the best way to get, from point A to point B. And I will say, as far as the team goes, it's not just the nurses, the techs, the physicians, the mid-levels. It's just not. It is respiratory. It is pharmacy. It is X-ray. It is CT.
Transport.
It is transport.
Environmental services.
It is environmental services. It's the lab. It is anybody that touches that patient that makes the team. And if we did not have great relationships and collaborative care that's going on, then we couldn't take care of our patients if we didn't have all of the support areas that help us too. And so we're very thankful for them too, and they're part of our team.
Absolutely. Well, I think I think you've got a secret sauce, but it also starts from the past. And it's being carried forward and evolving.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
You've had good mentors. Both of you have
yes,
good
ma'am.
mentors.
We've been very blessed. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that is terrific. Now, when it came time to, well, I tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, we are here with Dr. Gregory Givens. He is the Self Regional Medical Center Chief of Staff, and we're here with Nanci Dixon. She is the Director of Nursing for Emergency Care Services, not only at Self Regional, but also, we forgot to mention, Edgefield County Hospital. So she does that too. They're both very, very busy people. They agreed to come on and talk about the new facility, talk about what it takes to be an emergency medicine person and work as part of this team. I feel very blessed yesterday to have gotten the great tour, and I'm glad that we're now going to be able to turn to talking about the new facility, some of the nice little things that have been built in that you probably would never even notice unless you had the tour like I had yesterday. So if you're on Facebook Live, you will hear some music. If you are on the radio, you'll hear a commercial break, and when we come back, if I do it all correctly, we'll all be back together again. So you stay right here on WCRS Radio. That's right. We're right back here at WCRS Radio. This is a really special interview here today, one that I hope you're enjoying, and I hope that if you're watching it now or if you don't get a chance to watch it right now, but you'll like and share it on Facebook so that other people can see everything that went into building this facility, the new emergency room, rooms, wing at Self Regional. It's really impressive what they've done. $32 million facility, raised over $8 million by the foundation. And it's really important to understand what it takes to build something like this. You know, we wanted to talk about this facility was supposed to be updated going into 2019, 2020. And what happened, Nanci?
We had a pandemic.
And what did that mean?
And I am so glad that we didn't start before.
Okay.
And have that construction going on during that pandemic. But
right.
We needed to stop and, pause the construction, obviously, in the plans. But then it gave us an opportunity and the team an opportunity to go back and to look at what we had and see what changes maybe needed to be made based on some lessons learned during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And it allowed us to have areas that we can just close off and make a negative airflow area so that
now, what do you mean negative airflow?
So we can do respiratory illnesses such as COVID in those areas.
So it doesn't get in the rest of the building?
Yes. And have it a lot more convenient for the team as well. Because that dressing in, dressing out when you're going in and out of the rooms, can be very taxing just in with itself.
Sure.
With that. And so we were able to do that. The team was able to do that. And I was manager during that time. So Cindy and then Lilo, director of our facilities, as well as Dr. Gibbons was greatly involved in that. And then, as you said, we got some team feedback. We put up some plans and asked them to write on it and give some plans. And then they were actually gracious enough, the facilities team, and mocked up one of the rooms and those rapid assessment check-in areas at the front for the team to be able to go through and make suggestions about where things went. And we took...
So your input was wanted.
Took all that to heart.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And so, we had the space we had. We had the square footage that we had. The only square footage that we were able to add, the 15-bed observation unit when they relocated the CAT scan area. But if anybody remembers what the front of the emergency department looked like, the glass, it was like a sawtooth. Mm-hmm. So they straightened that out. And that's really the only square footage we added to the space. It was more about redesign.
It looks totally
different.
Right.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And much more spacious, I think.
Yes.
It appears to be, even if it's not.
Yeah, and I believe one of the best things for the team, probably one of the most frustrating things we had prior that we did improve on would be to be able to flex a room from a medical patient to a behavioral health patient. And you talked about that earlier a little bit with safety.
Well, you took me back to this. You said this is a behavioral room, and then what did you do? You showed me a sterile room basically, but what did you do?
Raised the garage door up and showed all of the medical equipment there. So it's available there in case something with that patient happens and we have to, revert back to monitoring and those things. But the design of those rooms was used, in the equipment in those rooms, and the ceilings and the sinks and everything, from one of the most strict guidelines for behavioral health. And so we wanted to make sure that we put the time, effort, and the money into making those rooms as safe as they could be for the team members as well as our patients.
Oh, I mean, I when you pointed out some of the details, like the rounded sink area, nothing that somebody could really hurt themselves with. I mean, this is important, and I think mental health and behavioral health is so important, and I am so glad to see that the emergency room facility has places now to be able to help with that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've had those services, and obviously we've, just like the boxes in the lobby in the past, we call them boxes, but we had to, build it. We had to adjust what we had to work with. And so we took regular emergency department rooms and stripped them and made them as safe as you could. But, nothing is as safe as having someone sit one-on-one with that patient. And that will continue to be our process because we want to ensure we keep our patients safe.
Sure. Dr. Greg Givens, what do you think about how the build is now? I know one of the things that you harped on that I thought was a very good point was how convenient the pharmacy is right there, and how having that extra brain power right there is so important. Can you expand on that for us?
Oh, for sure. So we've had pharmacists now in the emergency department for years, and it started off as also kind of a trial. Let's see how this goes. And I mean, just from the first that I ever caught wind of it, I was like, absolutely, please, let's do that. And so we are and have been blessed with some phenomenal pharmacists to be there in the emergency department. And it's just such an asset. You know, yesterday I gave you the example of stepping out and asking. I did the same today with Katrina Phelps, who's there right now, and you know, just absolutely let me step up and help you and see what you need. They respond to all of those critical situations as well, to hand you the medications or be thinking, you know, maybe even while you're managing, you're kind of deep in the weeds trying to manage the airway, they're thinking 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of you, which is what we want everyone in the room to be doing, you know, and so they're prompting you even at times while you're thinking down one pathway, they're thinking down another, and
medications change, don't they?
Sure, and they do. There's recommendations that will come out all the time that, hey, this medicine has been shown to be better in cardiac arrest than this medication. That was one of the things that she actually brought to our meeting yesterday. So constantly keeping us updated. Our pharmacy and therapeutics committee meets at the hospital, and pharmacy has been very proactive. So definitely so glad that we've got them in the emergency department, and they're there 24 hours a day.
Sure, and they're right there. They've got an office right there in the lineup there, so it is pretty cool. Now, let's talk a little bit about when somebody comes in, whether they come in through the front door or let's take coming in through the emergency with an EMS. You don't have to worry about getting them to a room. This was very impressive because I had took Jeff, my husband, there many times, and it's very impressive because you can actually start doing, I guess, your acuity right then and there to determine. Dr. Givens, tell us a little bit about from the stroke aspect and everything. Sure.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So that was one of the things that I am very happy about, and one of the many. But that was a process that we started well before the build, but we knew we've got to have this because it's just so good. And so when EMS is coming in, they'll give us a call at the radio and say, we've got a patient, we think they're having a stroke. We make them a neuro alert. That's our internal alert. And we have standing there waiting. We have a nurse, we have a pharmacist, and we have a physician, and we have tech staff that's waiting. And a lot is going on. We're getting the story from the paramedic who is bringing the patient in, tells what happened, blood sugar, vital signs, and then we do our assessment. Meanwhile, we're checking a blood sugar, getting blood pressure, patients getting registered.
But they haven't left the door. They've just come
They're
in the
just
door.
right inside the door. Absolutely.
Right. That's
this happens.
Amazing. Yeah.
Right. And then if the patient is a candidate to receive the thrombolytic, the clot busting medicine, then we go ahead and we get the patient straight over to CT scan because we need to know if there is hemorrhage or bleeding there, because we don't want to give that clot busting medication. It would just make that catastrophic. So we have to get them to CT quickly, and we don't even take the patient off the EMS stretcher. We leave them on because that's time wasted. Time is brain in this situation. And so we get them there as quickly as we can, get the CT done. While that is going on, we're talking to the neurologist and getting them up to speed on and saying, hey, we need you to come and take a look at this patient. We think this is potentially a T&K candidate. And it all just happens very fast, and it's made to be efficient and to improve as best we can the outcome of that patient by reducing the time to the intervention.
And how about having a weight scale right there when you walk in the door?
You can get that accurate weight because that medicine is weight-based, and it's very important because it is a very strong blood thinner, essentially. And so it's very important to get the accurate weight. And we were, to Dr. Gibbons' point, we were doing these processes, whether you came in by EMS or the front door, prior to our build. But being able to build the space and the actual locations to do this more efficiently, but out of the traffic flow, really makes it a lot more convenient as well. And then to his point about the patient going to CT, so even patients that aren't in that time window for those medicines, they're in a time window up to 24 hours from stroke symptoms to receive some definitive care for stroke that a lot of the community doesn't realize. Years ago, we didn't treat wake-up strokes. So if you woke up or nobody knew the last time somebody was well and it was outside of that 4-hour window at the point, we didn't treat those aggressively because we didn't have the technology to do that. Well, now we are using some artificial intelligence type things in CT now so that when that patient has that CAT scan, before that patient ever gets back to the emergency department, we could be already notified that there's bleeding in the brain or a large vessel occlusion. And in those cases, we have pathways for those patients to go down so that they can get some really aggressive care to decrease their debilitation.
Wow.
I think this is, and Nancy's exactly right. We can potentially, not in every single case, but we can potentially make a difference. And so I think it's important for us to say to the community while we're here that if you are someone that you see them having signs or symptoms of a stroke, please do not hesitate. Please call 911 and get them to us, and we will do the absolute best that we can for them.
Do you know what the signs of the stroke is? Isn't there a little ditty on this?
There is. Be fast. Yep. Balance.
Eyes.
Okay.
Facial droop.
Face.
Yeah. Okay.
Slurred speech.
Yep.
And then...
Oh, I put him on the spot.
You
I
did.
Can tell.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the mnemonic, but
time. Yeah, I don't remember.
It's time to call.
It's
time to call EMS. It was
right.
the T. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you while I got you here. Why is it better if you are having a heart attack or potential stroke or this thing? They always say, call the ambulance, don't drive yourself. This is a question that if you all could answer, I think a lot of people, because a lot of people think, no, I'm just going to drive myself in there.
Well,
go ahead. It's okay. Go ahead.
In the case of the heart attack, let's take that. Let's say that the patient is having a heart attack and it's causing the heart to have arrhythmias. It could cause that patient to lose consciousness. That patient could ultimately die as a result of a traumatic accident if they're driving in or injure someone else. And so it's best to go ahead, call 911. They've got the treatments that they need to be able to give you on that truck if you are having arrhythmias or you're having that chest pain. And they can go ahead and call us, and we can get our processes started so that we can get you to where you need to be much faster.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to say, early activation. So EMS can do the EKG, let us know. We can get our cath lab activated if it is a ST elevation heart attack. And so we can
They're using shorthand that most of us don't know, Nancy, but it's okay. Go ahead.
Well, I didn't say that in my part. I was trying. So there's certain types of heart attacks that you can see on the EKG, and EMS is trained to do that. And if they call us, we know that patient is going to go straight to the cath lab.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so especially after hours or when the cath lab's really full, we can get the early activation. EMS tells us we activate the cath lab. They are ready for the patient. You know, there's times when they don't even get off the EMS stretcher either, and they can go to the cath lab. And the importance of that is the time is muscle. Time's brain for your strokes, but time is muscle for that heart muscle to try to decrease the amount of damage that you actually have. With your traumas, if obviously most traumas do come in by EMS, but you would be surprised at the ones that come in the front door. We do have gunshot wounds that come to the front door. But when we get those early activations and we can start our trauma, stroke, and chest pain protocols ahead of time, it lets us prepare for the patient better and better patient outcomes.
Sure, and you know the EMS is corresponding with is talking to you, and so you already have information. coming your way. Now, when somebody does come through the front door that's having a stroke and they don't come through EMS, your procedure, your protocol is the same coming through that front door. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. It begins with assessment when they're getting out of the car. Just like Nanci said, across the room assessment, and then they reach that rapid evaluation area, and then if they if the nurse feels like the patient is having a stroke, then they will call a neuro alert, and they will announce overhead that it will be in CPOD. And that is actually what you witnessed yesterday.
Right.
So we just take the process from the EMS entrance and without the EMS stretcher to a wheelchair and to right inside the door of the CPOD. And it's the exact same people that show up. It's the exact same system. And we do a rapid evaluation. We make a decision, and then we go with it and get them over to CT as quick as possible and get the diagnosis and the treatment started if we can.
Yeah, and with those alerts, departments outside of the emergency department get notified. And so when you call that neuro alert and you call that hospital operator and they set those pages out, CTE gets that page and clears a table so that we can get there. So obviously if they're coming by EMS, we have more time to plan that.
That's right.
But we still do it when they come in the front door and have good times with both processes.
You know, I think this conversation we've been having is fascinating because it's like what goes on behind the curtain. That nobody knows. Nobody knows. And, you know, if you're a patient or if you're with somebody and you're going, God, why aren't they doing anything? And then you find out with all the conversation we're having here today that things are happening.
It's actually very, very complex behind the scenes. Yes.
Behind the curtain.
Yes, ma'am.
Behind that curtain, you can go into our lobby and it's just calm.
Right.
Right. And we're like, oh, we're not busy. We're not going to be here long at all. And then those doors open and then you see all the activity in the back. So it can be a little misleading in the lobby.
Sure. But, I mean, still, even you don't know that, well, if you've never been in an ambulance, you don't know that they're corresponding and all information is already being sent to the hospital where you're going and this type of thing. I have a story. I'm well familiar with self. I have a story. One night I was sitting here, it was about 12 o'clock at night, and a guy that works for me was coming to pick up some radio stuff, and he came over there and he looked at me, he goes, Ann, the right side of your face is drooping. I said, no, it's not. Come on. And he goes, you need to go to the hospital. I said, no, I don't. He goes, yes, you need to go to the hospital. Well, we go to the hospital, and I walk in, and I said, I'm sorry I'm here, but they say my face is drooping. Well, they treated it very seriously and thought that I might be having a stroke. What I had was Bell's palsy.
Sure.
So I was very blessed from that standpoint. Yes. But they were very efficient because, you know, you just walk in there, you go, because I said, I don't want to go. I'll be sitting there for hours. And they go, Ann, you need to go. And because I did and because I got treatment, you can't really tell my face is crooked, can you?
No, not at all.
But anyways. What we have here at Self is truly amazing, and that's why I wanted to do this interview. I wanted to talk about what is going on at the emergency room. You hear the dollars, $32 million, 8.2, 8.3 raised by the foundation. I think everything is expensive. That's a given. But we don't realize how much goes in and how much time and effort went into planning this. And if you didn't have great people, it really wouldn't matter anyways. But because of what y'all have said this afternoon, I hope that people will go back and listen to this, share it, and will realize what a great facility we really have right here in Greenwood.
And we couldn't have done it without the team at the hospital that kept us on track with the construction and tracked us down and made sure that, you know, the phasing was where it needed to be, because a remodel is a lot different than a new build.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody did such a great job.
Yeah.
That design and implementation team and all of those construction workers that were there and just worked tirelessly, they made this happen, and we're so thankful and so proud of their efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And one more thing I want to discuss, the bereavement room.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, there is nothing worse than when somebody dies in the emergency room, and it happens. and to have the family or have people coming and have all that equipment and everything, to be able to have added a separate room for this, what a great, thoughtful process that was.
It is. So when you have those deaths in the emergency department, they're usually unexpected, because most of your, end of life type things don't come to the emergency department. Those are more planned. But the deaths that we have are obviously emotional. They take time for family to come. And so we have the room that we can move the deceased to that is out of the hustle and bustle of the emergency department. And you're not hearing the bells and the whistles, and you're not, getting interrupted by things. And you can take the time to, start your grieving process. And we have the team that will help. Our chaplain services are amazing. They come to every one of our traumas and our cardiac arrest and those, but they will come, and our team as well, to give that family the support that they need, and to have that space away from all the hustle and bustle is just amazing. And the ambiance that the team has put together and put in there themselves to make that space is, I guess, comforting as it can be during that time. I'm really proud of them for that.
Absolutely. I think it's. I thought that was such a nice touch for families or for anybody, but to be able to have that space. So, I guess, would you like to say something in closing, Nanci?
We appreciate the opportunity to be here and the time we spent yesterday, and to give us the opportunity to brag on our team, as well as let the community know a little bit about what has been going on. It's not ever a two-person show. We just happen to be in the positions at this moment. This all started years ago with a lot of different leaders. We have a lot of new team members that are in the emergency department now that I feel sure will have some of the same experiences that we've had over our career. I love emergency medicine, and it's where I'm meant to be.
That sounds great. And Dr. Givens, what would you like to say in closing?
I concur with everything that Nanci said. We're blessed to have the teams that we have that work alongside us, and we work alongside them, and we're able to do what we do. I want to also say that I appreciate the opportunity to come here today to be able to put out some information to the public and hopefully improve the awareness regarding these medical emergencies that we're talking about, and what to do, and also be able to share the success of the emergency department. I also would like to thank our administrative staff at the hospital. They are tremendous supports to us, and are very very willing to work with us and help us to solve the problems that we encounter day to day and week to week. And so just very, very proud of everyone who has been involved with this project, and appreciate everything that each one of them contributed to it.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, if you ever have to go to the emergency room, keep your eyes open, because you got to look around and see all the cool stuff that has been done if you're able. And if you never have to go to the emergency room, well, you're blessed. But when you need somebody, they are there for you. And I think that is a terrific statement. Having been a frequent flyer at the emergency room, I can say I hope I never have to go again. But I do say it is a beautiful facility, and one that y'all should be very proud of. And certainly it looks to me like the efficiency is way up. And that is what everybody needs when they go to the emergency room. So thank you for all that you do for our community. Thank you for coming out and sharing. And thank you yesterday for that tour. It was fabulous.
Well, you're very welcome. And thank you likewise for what you do. And talking with you yesterday just regarding Helene, and we were all working together to try to support our community. And so I appreciate what you do, appreciate your voice, and thanks for giving us a voice today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right. Well, guess what? That's going to do it for us. That's a wrap. We are right here on WCRS right here in Greenwood, South Carolina. I'll be back tomorrow morning and I don't have a guest, so I'll be able to talk tomorrow morning. That'll be great. That's going to do it for us. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in on WCRS. Our very special guests today have been Nanci Dixon, the Director of Nursing for Emergency Care Services at Self Regional and at the Edgefield County Hospital, and Dr. Gregory Givens, who is the Self Regional Medical Center Chief of Staff. So you have been great this afternoon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. That's going to do it for us.
Off we go.